Hey, Slandra, y'all. Welcome to Tuesday night, Scotch on the Bayou. I'm Leanne, and we have another wonderful night talking about American single malts and what they are, what they aren't, and a very different version of that from the other side of the country, from what we talked about 2 weeks ago with Ty Phelps of Andalusia. Tonight, I'm so excited. My first American single malt that I had, Virginia Distillery, and we are going to have as our guest the lead blender, Amanda Beckwith. So I'm super excited that she is going to be able to join us, and want to say hey to everyone. Looking, we've got a good little crowd in here already this evening. Awesome. Hey, Martin, good to see you. Hopping on a flight home. You've been on a fabulous vacation, friend, and I'm so excited. Yeah, catch it on the replay if you can't get it on the plane. And if you do get on the plane, take a picture of you watching this on the plane. Hey Chris, great seeing everyone. The go-to VIP bottle getter and an incognito shipper of things. When you can't get a bottle, you call your buddy in DC, right? Loch Ness is in. Hello, great to see you there. And Four Leaf Whiskey, of course, Stacy. Hey, friend. We talked last week. Stacy was on, and we talked about Irish style American single malt. So, well, not all of them were single malts, but American style, Irish style American whiskey. So go back and check that because replay, because I'm going to tell you, we had some fun. Girls can bring it to the house when we talk about whiskey. And we I wouldn't say we were slightly adorable by the end, but we had 5 drams, so it was good. This guy, hey Gregor, ahoy y'all, great to see you. Along with the slippers, can get ready for fall. Please send some fall weather. We're supposed to get our first cool front. They ain't cold until like December here in South Louisiana, but yeah, hopefully nicer, cooler temperatures this weekend. Okay, Kathy, great having you here. I'm so excited. Thanks for being in with the crew. And hey, Martin, Whiskey Franco, all about that ASM, American Single Malts, taste and sensibility. Hey, enjoyed having you here. We're gonna have lots of fun. All of our peeps. George is in, Mark JG, all kinds of fun folks. Graham from Scotland. We were just chatting today. I can't wait to talk to you, man. I'm so stoked about our big day that we're going to have over there. Shh, we'll talk more about that later. Thanks for being here. He just had a birthday and he spent it at Loch Lomond with a pile of friends, including Roy Aquavitae. Had to be a fabulous time. Roy even told me that he bought you a toasty. So I'm glad he fed you, Graham. He owes you that and more. Hey, and even too slow's here. Never too slow, friend. Um, thanks everybody for being here. So yeah, we're gonna get right into it. So if everybody will just please welcome Amanda. Let me put us a little closer. There we go. Hey there. Welcome.
Hey, thank you.
I really appreciate you taking the time. You are literally on the road going from one event to the other. So thank you for holding up into your hotel room to
My
join us
pleasure.
tonight.
It's not as fun a background as the barrels are, but
Yeah, we can all, we all have been hopefully in some various location close to that, and we can
imagine
go
the
into a
smell.
virtual environment in our head that you're behind the barrels and with all your testing and blending skills there. So yeah, I just we've got a couple of things that I know I want to talk about. Hit me up, y'all, at Scotch on the Bayou in the chat, so I can see if you all have any particular questions. But I just want to do kind of kick it over to you, Amanda, and tell us a little bit about Virginia Distillery, why you're doing single malts and maybe not bourbon, and just kind of give us the 411 on the distillery.
Sure. Yeah, Virginia Distillery Company has been around really since 2011. We were founded by George Moore, who was an Irishman. He came over on a scholarship from Ireland to the US, and After he graduated, he ended up going to California, was big in the tech world. He helped to integrate caller ID.
Oh, wow.
His one big passion was collecting and drinking single malt whiskey. And at that time, there really wasn't American single malt. And so we are still independently owned. We're the largest independently owned American single malt producer. The Moore family is still at the helm. George passed away a few years ago, but his son, Gareth, is our CEO. George's wife, Angela, is our majority owner. And so we're making George's dream come true. We love doing one thing well, and that is American single malt. We're all in love with it. We get to geek out about it, and I think really showcase what Virginia can bring to the table there.
Yeah, and it's for Graham's sake. I don't know if Graham knows our terrain very well, but Virginia looks so much like Speyside. I'll say that. When I was driving around Speyside this summer, I was like, this is Blue Ridge Parkway. This is well, more like those rolling hills in Georgia, North Georgia and Virginia, North Carolina, kind of, maybe not the sweeping open,
There's something really breathtaking about the Scottish Highlands.
It truly is.
Very much. The Blue Ridge Mountains are beautiful, especially in the autumn. Yeah. There's nothing like it. But I definitely have a different sort of moment where my heart beats when I'm in Scotland.
I think we all, if you don't, I think there might be something wrong.
I agree.
I really have to say, the place is just amazing. And, just even the River Spey kind of reminded me of those low, flat, wide rivers that you get when you go down. There was this particular, I was telling you about staying in Charlottesville. I actually stayed on a farm not too far from Monticello. And I'm like, okay, this is really old. When you think about our country, this is the old part.
True.
When you go to Scotland, you're in the middle of everything, far older. But you're looking, my first experience of driving down a Virginia road were these rock fences. I get to Scotland and I go, hey, I've seen that before.
Yep.
Wonder why, because all those people, all our ancestors came over from that particular geographical area, especially was highly, within the area of Scotland and Ireland, Northern England that came over.
Literally hundreds of thousands of immigrants from Scotland and Ireland in the 1700s into that area, the Blue Ridge Mountains in particular. But they came in through New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and just made their way south.
Right. Well, let's have some whiskey and we'll talk some more. Yes. So, my first, I'm going to throw this in the chat too. First of all, here is, so you can follow Virginia Distillery at VA Distillery on Instagram, Facebook, and all the things. Here is their website to go see, because the site is a wealth of information. And from there, you can also get into a lot of information about the actual spirit and each of the, you can get like the transparency on what you all make is amazing. The only other place I've seen as much is Compass Box. I mean, it's that level, that level of geekdom down to, the temperature swings in the dunnage house, just, where the cuts were made, all of the fun stuff. But this was my first foray into, I went back and I watched this. I watched this review I did of Courage and Conviction, and I was like, oh, bless my heart. I was so
I'm honored
new at this. And now I'm like rattling stuff off left and right. But that is the first review of this bottle. And that would be the Courage and Conviction. And this is batch 2. Okay. And these batches were named after different people. So maybe explain why that is.
Yes. So we waited over half a decade before releasing our first American Single Malts. And we decided the whiskey was ready right in the middle of a pandemic in 2020. And Yay! So one of the sayings of George Moore was, have the courage of your convictions. And that really resonated. So we named batch 1 George Moore in his honor. And it was a small batch. It was 37 barrels that I blended together. And we got 96 points from Wine Enthusiast like the next week on that. And I was already working on the second batch, and I named it Jim Swan, and I did Nancy Fraley. I did a Harry Coburn. I looked at my mentors, and they were the first batches that we did. I knew at that point that batching was not sustainable, but because I always retained a bit of a previous batch for consistency's sake in blending, but also because like we just needed to be bottling as needed, and I could just keep having this allocated selection. And so we eventually stopped doing the batches, and now it's like a very special limited thing if you see it. But batch 2 is near and dear to my heart.
This is just so I don't know, and I didn't know there was a batch in this tasting that I did with Jenny earlier, but I don't know which batch that is. So, but I poured out of my big bottle, and I've shared this with a lot of folks. And so you said you waited at least 5 years to get it going, right? And we see, looking at the commission getting together, the American Single Malt Whiskey Commission, saying, okay, these are the rules that we would like. And I know we're still kind of waiting on that decision by TDB, correct?
Yes. So there were 9 of us that got together, 9 founding members of the American Single Malt Whiskey Commission. And we did have our criteria, and we brought many, many more people into the fold of the commission since then. And we got through a period of comments. So that period is closed, and the TTB is now reviewing all the feedback that they got. And we are just waiting on them to ratify. So there might be, like, we have a couple of things that we're waiting to see, like, will they require an age minimum or something like that? But for the most part, we're all on the same page, and we're really, really excited because there hasn't been a new category of American whiskey recognized by the U.S. government since 1969. So it is true whiskey history in the making.
That's a vintage.
Yeah.
So, and we talked with Ty a little bit about this, but there's, I think we could speak, from the business side of the world. There's such a power with having a name of a category. You have bourbon, what it is, the definition, what the things are. With having an American single malt whiskey category, it just seems that that's going to add to, a marketing prowess, education opportunities, all of those things to help bolster the makers.
Yes, that is our real true hope. We want protecting ourselves and the consumer is huge. We want to make sure people know when they grab an American single malt bottle, they know exactly what they're getting. But exactly as you said, education is so crucial. And I really talk about this great American comfort blanket around bourbon, where that's what everybody's familiar with. And it leads to a real dismissal of some really great treasures out there.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to see curiosity and education kind of taking charge now.
It is. Because, living a little larger, getting beyond a myopic tasting profile. Down here in the South, you mentioned that before we got on that you'd come down to Tales of the Cocktail and that you particularly like our food in South Louisiana.
Love your food. Yes.
Our food is not bland.
No.
It is not run of the mill. It is not, it is not pedestrian at all. We have some kick in everything we do. And I would love for people, whether it's traveling or drinking outside your palate, to see something other than what is right in front of you,
Yes.
This is awesome. Oh, Loch Ness, you're so sweet. I love that. Let me grab his comment real quick if I can find it. So seeing these two lovely and knowledgeable ladies on my screen puts a huge smile on my face. Thank you so much. Oh, you are welcome. And that's the thing I love about our community. Is very open. There's a seat at the table for any and all folks. And
important.
yeah, we have a good time. So American Single Malts, we're getting close to an actual bona fide, sanctioned, if you will, category that might actually muscle in on some shelf space
That's
and
the goal
put them
because right
collectively
now,
together.
yeah, liquor stores are often very confused. Do we go in Scotch? Do we go in bourbon? American whiskey sometimes has a category, just a big one. So, yeah.
Yeah, because it's almost like playing whack-a-mole or Where's Waldo when you're trying to find it. If you go into a liquor store and you start looking
Mm-hmm.
and can I help you with something? And I was like, oh yes, because I always want to engage with the staff, and I'm looking for American Single Malts, and sometimes it's like, what? And it's like, oh, come here, little one, let me show you. You pick this one, you pick that one. It's like Scotch, but not. And trying to not be that meme that says I know more than you, but be really sweet and polite about it and
Oh,
help
it's
do
so
some
hard.
education. You
Yeah.
know?
I am always fascinated by how often when people hear single malt, they think Scotch, even though there's so many blended Scotches out there and
Yeah.
grain Scotch whiskeys, but they think Scotch and they think peated.
Yes. Yes. Oh
And
my
it's like,
God.
oh,
The bane of my existence.
how do we unpeel all this? We can have some incredible peat in American single malt or mesquite smoke, or we could have nothing. But same could be said of Scotch. It does not have to be peated.
Yeah. So all of the expressions are let's talk about your whiskey because you done good. I mean, I
Oh,
really have to say,
thank
those
you.
who know me don't know. I just don't. Well, you wouldn't be here if I didn't like your stuff. But anyway, I mean, you present at 46%.
Mm-hmm.
And non-chill filtered, no color
No camel
added.
color, no chill filtering. The lowest I bottled at is 46. My most recent whiskey is 48. Yeah,
Awesome.
I do a lot of cast strength too, or close to it. My thought is I want people to experience whiskey the best way it can be. And if they want to have it on the rocks, if they want to add some water to open up, that's great. But I'm going to make sure it's going to perform well at that. So at 46%, it can handle that water addition. It can handle some dilution. If we're going to bring it down to, say, 80 proof, it can start to really lose some of the character that I like. So, yeah.
Yeah. Bravo. So kind of take us through, if you don't mind, like a day in the life of a blender.
Yeah. No
This
2
is
days
just
are the same.
so I want to be the fly on the wall. It's like, how does Amanda go about her day? How does she decide, okay, this is going to be our next expression? All the things.
Yeah. Throughout the year, usually multiple times in a week, I'll be up in the cask house just because we have so many casks. We started out with a small dunnage style cask house and we moved into 2 larger metal clad buildings that can hold 6,000 casks each. So I'm doing sensory analysis by pulling samples from dozens and dozens of casks on a weekly basis, just because I've got to check in and kind of track how things are aging, and being able to predict really, really helps me out. What is coming up actually on Tuesday of next week, it kicks off, is Barrel Boot Camp. And that is a very special time that I kind of created. There are windows around spring and fall in particular where the barrels show best. And those are the times where I'm up there doing my final speed dating, going back through the ones that I've checked multiple times. I think I know what to expect. I've already had in mind where I want these casks to go, whether it's a single cask, a blend, a special limited run, something like that. And so it'll be that final round, and then having them move down into the batting house to start going into their forever homes.
Okay.
The slow batting out and blending and reduction if they're going to need that. So Barrel Boot Camp is really intensive. It's every single day. Sometimes it starts at 5 a.m. And it goes pretty nonstop, but it's my favorite time of year, hands down. I will often be setting aside samples during that time for single cask picks, and those have to come back with me either to my house or to my office, where I'm going to be doing those reductions and spending more time with them in a more pristine, scent-free environment to really make sure that they pass muster as single cask. And then every week we have reduction schedules, so I'm slowly landing the plane for different bottling projects and making sure the ABV is getting where I want it. We don't rush that reduction, so I monitor that, do final checks. do a lot of afternoon blending sessions, and that would be more of like triangle tests, matching, and making sure things are looking close to where I need them to be before they're moved into their final vat, before the bottling. I usually do a little bit of education throughout the week, which is really fun. And that could be, writing something up as a training manual for the team, getting geeky about something and making a little video, or doing what I call Whisky EDU. And that means I get to showcase something that I've found or discovered through the whole team. And I'll have like blind samples that they can come up and nose and write their thoughts on. And then they see how that applies to this, Armenian single malt that I found, which is what is coming up next. And hopefully they're not going to watch this and know what it is until afterwards. But education is really important to me, and our team likes to get their fingers into that too.
Well, that's interesting. So let me pick up on one part you were talking about on the water reduction. Is that water reduction as far as the maturation of the cask, or when you're doing the vatting?
When I'm doing the vatting and blending, we do reduction. So we fill our casks now at the highest ABV legal entry proof, which is 62.5 or 125 proof. So we have that water addition before the whiskey goes into the barrel. So it comes off the stills, goes into the barrel. And then when I've made my selection, say I'm picking a bunch of first fill bourbon casks to go into the product that you're drinking right now, the Virgin Conviction Signature Malt. I know that I want to bottle it 92 proof. So as I am combining the casks together in separate vats, I have one for first fill bourbon. I have one for sherry. Actually, I have dozens for sherry because I've got different types of sherry and then different projects, or red wine. I slowly bring it all together as I'm getting the different segments ready. And I add water in different steps along the way. And that way it's not like one big water addition that can cause things like saponification to happen, where some of those beautiful esters or fatty acids can get lost. I don't want a flabby, angular, lackluster whiskey. So so usually Wednesday is a 1% reduction day. And so there's the fun math time. A lot of people say, oh, it's great art doing blending. But if they knew how many times I have to write equations, they wouldn't say that.
There are times that I would have liked to have paid more attention to chemistry now that I'm in this little hobby thing, but I don't think Miss Buck in 10th grade would have been all about distillation.
Sadly not. I think about that all the time. Like, they could explain it this way. I would have been in.
Just give me some context that I can relate to, and then I'm there,
And maybe make it sensory, like smell things, taste things.
I have been asked
a lot of fun
in a candle aisle if I was okay. It's like, it's, I'll move along, but I'm really trying to get this one scent. It's really pretty funny. Oh man, this is so interesting. I could just kind of see how nothing's the same every day, huh?
No, never. And it could be, just different projects. I am doing development of new projects all the time, but I'm usually thinking about 5 to 10 years in the future. And that might mean I'm ordering casks. So I'm communicating with different bodegas around the world, and I'm talking about different things we can get. And I do sensory analysis of empty barrels when they come. So I probably look insane to somebody who wouldn't know, but I'm there in a big hallway full of empty barrels, like going through each one with a light and smelling and, getting a sample of what was in there before. And it's really fun, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Okay, I'm gonna come back to that point too. I wanted to pop in here, Martin. Whiskey Franco Balcones' gateway into American Single Malts about 6 years ago. Shout out to the rooftops, amazing, unreal. I'm actually presenting as one of. I had really hoped to grab one of yours, but so this weekend is our Louisiana Bourbon Festival here in Baton Rouge, and then there's the New Orleans Bourbon Festival in March. Is a really big one, and then Tales of Cocktail, as you know, in July when it's hotter than hell. This is going to be kind of nice, but I would love to see y'all there next year because I'm doing an entire session on American Single Malts. So my goal is to get them all learned.
Heck yeah! Well, I love Balcones. They, along with us, were founding members of the ASM Commission, and I have not been without a bottle of theirs or two on my shelf for the past 8 years. So big fan.
Just fabulous.
Yeah.
And that's interesting in itself, when you look at a Balcones who's now been bought by Diageo.
Yeah.
So that tells you right there, the big boys,
Mhm.
because in the Scotch world, we all know which brands are the Diageo brands, but they're paying attention to their portfolio and they saw an opportunity,
Yep.
for something like Balcones. And please, for the love of God, just let them do what they're going to do. Just
I
please
know.
let them
There are good,
do.
passionate people there doing great work,
Yeah.
so hopefully they're being
Yeah.
supported.
And so by definition, you see a Jack Daniel's doing a single malt. You see
And
some
being
of those big
proud.
hefty folks doing those. They're doing them not as a pet project. They're doing them because they know that they're going to make money.
Yeah.
Having that as being able to help the overall category can only be a plus. In the same sense of kudos for y'all for being a family owned, independent. We're going to do our thing, and this is what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy. I know that there are a lot of American single malt producers being, courted, and you always want to protect the whiskey and the
Yeah.
people making it.
Yeah, for sure. Matt's over in BC, and he's talking about what's been done with the American Single Malt Committee is important, and then the Canadian version is doing
Yeah.
something similar to separate itself from all the corn wheat
You
rye.
can hear people talking about rye whiskey in Canada, and they don't mean it has a drop of rye in it. The mash bill can have no rye, and it blows my mind. It's the wild, wild north up there.
Well, Northwest.
Yeah, I agree.
Wow. Oh goodness. And our friend Trooper is literally out in a rig and in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, piping in, "Hey friend, loving this American whiskey episode." Yep. All
Cheers
dropping
to
all the
you.
knowledge. And this is my friend Jennifer. She and I did the Isla Whiskey Academy
Oh, fun.
together, and we've been thick as thieves since. She wants to
Jennifer,
be
come
your
visit.
princess.
Come hang out. We'll have fun.
I think that might need to be a road trip, Jen. I'm just saying. Just saying. Hey Joe, good to have you in. Getting a good crowd here. Just loving all of this. That's awesome. So with this one, this particular the batch 2,
Mhm.
I mean, it's very clean. It's and so this would be 5 years, correct?
Yeah, so that one, what I really loved about it, the first batch was, like I said, 37 casks. This one doubled in size. And we have this beautiful foundation of aging in first fill bourbon casks. But I always want to build complexity and layers in. So
Yeah.
having a lot of really gorgeous sherry casks that we don't finish in, we do primary maturation. Um, I think the youngest whiskey that we pulled back for batch 1 was like 3.5, hovering at 4 years. But we really been aging up since then. And for the past 1.5 years, I've been picking 6 and older whiskey for pretty much everything. So we say aged a minimum of 4 years because you don't know what could be out there
Right.
still in different bottles. But I don't want to ever let the whiskey get to a point where it's over oaked and you lose
Yes.
those delicate fermentation esters. So as long as I can strike that balance, I'm enjoying seeing how the whiskey continues to develop and mature.
Yeah, it's this is very clean, and for those, I feel like smell-o-vision here. Um it's bright. There's like a floral note on it,
Mm-hmm.
on the spirit. And um I went back and looked at my review, and that was the very like crack open the bottle right now.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
mean, again, and this is where we are, right? So I like this is almost a sweet spot, when it really starts to open.
This one
So,
opens up for hours.
yeah.
There will be more red fruit, more cocoa that comes through even if 40 minutes in. I'll sit
Mhm.
with the glass open and just like let it breathe. And I love that it's got this whole story. You said bright citrus note. I get like
Yeah.
lemon peel, melon, green apple,
I
and
get
then
the
it's
green apple big
apricot.
time.
Yeah, but then on the mid palate, that's when the cocoa, raspberry, cherry, pecan, all of that comes to play.
Kind of that like dry pithy part of a pecan. or a walnut, you know, just very, and the spice is, it's heat wise is just a kiss, just a, you know, there of the heat, but it's not like a whoa ginger, or it's not anything overtly abrasive. And I think that's uh, what I was so surprised about this. I have to now it's all coming back to me. This was my first review, but not my first single malt. I had another one. Not going to talk about it, but it was very, very young, and there was an acetone kind of harshness on the front end of it. It was really hard to get
Yeah.
past, and so, I mean, almost a gluey kind of
Oh dear.
chemical-y, you know, type thing, and you down here in South, you know, we had a bless your heart moment. I
Oh,
know you
yeah.
tried,
Yeah.
you know, but I had hoped a whole lot more for that whiskey,
Mhm.
and have since had other expressions, and they're doing much better.
Good,
So I'm
good.
really happy about that. You know, I didn't want to throw it completely out of the world, but I think can what 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 would bring some of that on, and is that something we've had to deal with, or how do you mitigate those kind of off-putting notes?
Yeah, well, there's that youthful new make aggressiveness that can be problematic. And going back to actual distillate, you can see where are the cuts, how wide or narrow are they? Ours are pretty narrow.
Okay.
We take our heads and tails to redistill them, so we're not really worried about, oh, great loss there.
Yeah.
I like controlling the flavor profile. So there is like a cling fruit, orchard fruit component that is there from fermentation. And I like just taking that, knowing what I have to work with, and then making sure those casks are unfaulted, that they're cared for very well and we get them fresh. That's huge. Making sure that the right casks are selected. Some barrels, depending on where they're stored, the heat they might be subjected to, there could be unpleasant off notes that kind of get enhanced. So for
Mm,
me, I grade every cask, and I don't use oh, you're a worst cask to you're a best cask. I
yeah.
have an ABC foundational rating, and C just means it's your base notes. So if it is a first filled bourbon cask and it's got butterscotch and cinnamon, that's great. I need
Yeah.
that in my blend. That's a C. If
Yeah.
it has some beautiful pineapple and lemon peel coming in as well, that could be a B. And if there's this great, beautiful melon, cocoa, cedar, that could be an A. And that doesn't mean I want all A's, not at all, but I want
Right.
that in there. So finding that and making sure that if am finding some more like aggressive, punch you in the face spice from a lot of casks, I have to break those up and make sure that I'm blending them out. So I want a
Okay.
long, warm, spicy finish, but I don't want people to lose all the other notes that I've developed. I want it to be
Yeah.
a natural story that evolves. And yeah, I think the finish is very important on a whiskey.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is so much fun. I hope you're having fun.
Oh, heck yeah.
I feel like I'm interrogating you, but for a very good cause, I promise
I
you.
love talking whiskey, and you're very easy to talk to. I've enjoyed from the moment we
I
got on today.
never met a stranger, clearly. Ask
I
all these
love
people
it.
on here. Okay, so I am, oh, wow. So I've just pulled the lid off of the Cuvee cask.
Yeah.
So talk to me about Cuvee.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
when we were getting started, we hired a few Scottish mentors to come out to Virginia, live with us for a little while, and really share their expertise. And Dr. Jim Swan came on board to help with the maturation program. And he had just been working in Taiwan at the Cavalon Distillery. And he told me that Virginia has a 4-season subtropical climate. And that kind of blew my mind. I was born in Virginia. I should know subtropical, but
subtropical
I
Virginia?
never thought that. And he said it's really, really similar to Taiwan,
Hmm.
and you can get away with some cask maturation that they can, but Scotland and Ireland really can't. And so
Ah,
he said, get all the sherry casks that you can and play. And I really think you should use this type of cask that I've been developing. And we were one of the first distilleries that he told about it. And the idea was he'd been ordering a bunch of first fill bourbon barrels from Kentucky to come to Cavalon and was told, sorry, Scotland's going to beat you to it. We're going to have to wait for the next round of barrels. And Jim didn't want to wait. So he was inspired by the idea of dechar rechar from bourbon barrels, and instead went to friends in Portugal and Spain, and they started experimenting, took premium red wine casks, shaved the inner staves, toasted, and then charred them. And originally they broke the barrels apart and did that shaving stave by stave.
Ooh.
So it was called shave, toast, recooper, STR. Now, Jim passed away in 2017, and you know how language gets messed with. A lot of people started calling it shave, toast, rechar. None of those original barrels were charred to begin with. So we went, okay, we're not even taking the staves apart anymore. We have a machine that goes in and removes those 3+ millimeters. So we did Cuvee cask because it's a nod to that premium run, first run of a great red wine in Spain. And we like the alliteration of courage and conviction Cuvee casks. So we geeked out. Yeah, but the idea is that shaving removes that wine residue. So it's the whiskey really working its way deep into the stave that's going to give it that influence of the red fruit back to balance it out with the barrel spice. And a lot of times you hear a wine cask finish or a sherry cask finish. For our core courage and conviction line, it's all primary maturation, and that really allows that really, truly deep interaction with the stave that I love. And it means years and years of waiting, and it's more expensive. And these are casks that you can't really reuse. They are spent when they're done.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I can give them away. I can give them to local breweries or cideries, and they can have a lot of fun with it, but I wouldn't be using it again for my whiskey.
Wow. It's got some depth to it, you know?
We use French barrels now, along with the original Portuguese and Spanish wine casks that Jim connected us to. And they are all so different. I've played with a heavy toast, level 1 char, level 2. So these casks are really, really different from each other, but there's always some form of chocolate. It could be dry cocoa, mocha, like a milk chocolate ganache. And there's always that red fruit. It could be raspberry or cherry, strawberry. I've had blood orange and violet. I love finding out what each barrel is going to do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to come just to watch you work one day. Graham, our friend from Scotland, is asking at what strength do you nose and sample when you're doing your blending?
When I'm doing my original cask sensory, I do it cask strength, whatever that is. And to get geeky, it's rarely 125 because being in a subtropical climate, we're incredibly humid. So we have a lot of interaction and a lot of evaporation, but we're having humidity pockets being pulled in. So typically, everything that I've pulled in the last 2 months has been between 57.8 and 60.9% ABV.
Oh, okay.
So after about 6.5 years of aging, that's what I'm looking at. When I'm actually doing the blending or even just selecting single casks, I reduce it down to, usually I go to 70% or 70 proof. I will go lower sometimes just to make sure, but I've got a pretty core sample usually, and I know, okay, this palette are going to be consistent from cask to cask. If I'm doing a true blend that's going to be bottled at 92 proof, I like to bring it down to at least half of what the blending proof will be, just to make sure to really check it out.
Wow.
And I get a really comfortable benchmark even before I get that low, but I feel like I have to.
Yeah. And what a beautiful marriage of science and art.
Yeah.
And, to have the, sensory receptors to be able to do your job. Amazing. I'm just so I know, does it bother you to go through the perfume section of the department store?
Oh, I can't. Yeah.
Okay.
I get really overwhelmed.
Like you taste all of it, don't you?
It's really painful. I do unscented everything. I get really excited if I get to wear a slightly scented lotion. And I'm not going to be working for like when I'm on vacation, but even before the end of vacation, I'm done.
Right. Bring on the
So
pina
yeah, my
colada.
shampoo, conditioner, everything has to be pretty unscented.
Yeah.
And I can be miserable in a room where one person has heavy perfume, and I'm like trying to be polite and get space, fresh air. I get very overwhelmed. So even going into a candle store or going somewhere where there's like heavy air freshener can get me. Yeah,
I have to
I've been like
run
that since I
past
was a
Bath
kid.
and Body Works in the mall.
I get
I
very
can't
sick.
do it.
Yeah,
can't.
there's a sad story. I was in a tent full of people, and there was a lot of truffle. It was truffle in the food, like shaved, but also truffle oil. And I almost passed out or threw up. Like I couldn't handle it. I had to go out to like a river
It's
nearby
so
and sit there and
pungent.
breathe and practice my breathing. But I could smell it on people in our car afterwards.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
hell. Yeah. And I love food and I love smells, so don't get me wrong, but when it's something that intense
Oof.
everywhere, it just
And a little dab will do you on truffles,
right?
folks. And just
Yeah.
a wee bit.
Restraint, please.
Oh my gosh. Well, everyone's my friend is up in DC and his son is actually going to Virginia Tech. But he was asking why in the mountains?
I like
And
that.
let's talk about climate too. Yeah.
Yeah, so the original site was, well, we're in Nelson County, Virginia, and it was a dry county through the 60s. There was a hurricane that came in, Hurricane Camille, and it devastated the area. And
We're very familiar with Camille down here.
oh my
It
gosh,
hit us
of
first.
course you are. It did. It did.
Yeah.
Oh, so at that point where we now have our distillery, there was a still house back in a tent, and there were 6 illegal stills in a 2-mile radius. And people would say if you hit all 6 before you went home after work, you got your 6-pack on. So there was a lot of brandy and a lot of whiskey making. There were orchards everywhere. And the road, Eads Lane, that goes through to our distillery actually ends in a rock slide because of the rainfall from Camille. And
Okay.
one of the big decisions made was, well, we need to make distilling legal to bring revenue into this county now to kind of get things up and running again. And so the history there was huge. The water is really significant for us. There are a series of freshwater springs and a stream on the 100 acres where a distillery is. So it was kind of that perfect spot. And, you know, our byproduct is CO2. And because we're surrounded by trees, they convert it right back into oxygen, which is crucial. And then also we have our own effluent building. So we're able to take all our cleaning water and wastewater, run it through that, make sure it's potable, have it tested, and then it can make its way right back into the water table over the years.
That's
so
awesome.
Location matters.
Yeah, really, really does. Matt Evers, really enjoyed your appearance on One Nation Under Whiskey with Jason and Joshua.
I love them. Jason is my neighbor. He lives in Bridgewater, Virginia. And so occasionally we'll have like meetups, porch sipping whiskey or lunch together. And I've invited him for the first time to crash my barrel boot camp on Wednesday of next week. So he is going to be at the distillery, just hanging out while I pull some fun samples.
That's awesome. Now, do you all do your malting there or you buy malted barley?
So we started out growing our own barley, which we go through so much and we need it to be very specific. So we work with over 600 farmers now through the North Midwest. And anything grown in Virginia has been malted at Murphy and Rude Malting in Charlottesville, and they are amazing. I think the world of what they're doing. They're incredibly passionate and brilliant. And other than that, we work with this sort of Taj Mahal of malting, as they call it, in Montana. So everything else goes through them and then comes down to us.
Got ya. Yeah, it's interesting, like where it can grow, where it just can't, you know.
Oh, well, the nitrogen levels in Virginia's soil where we are crazy high. And so that was a big learning curve. And also the deer really like to sleep on and trample the barley where we are. And
counterproductive.
They look real cute.
Hey, get off my whiskey.
Get
off my whiskey. Yeah. Goodness. Well, so talking about climate and maturation, is something that I think is so very interesting when you look at how things mature here, as opposed, feeding off what you were talking about, with Dr. Swan saying you're 4 seasons subtropical. I was like, I think we might be 2 seasons subtropical, if that, or 2 season tropical down here in South Louisiana. Because, there's a difference. And in talking with Ty Phillips of Andalusia a couple weeks ago, we're like, oh, it's so hot in Texas, the summers, the maturation, it goes so fast. And he's like, well, it's almost the winters that are just not real cold. And there's the continuation of maturation. Then it's almost like, yeah, it's hot during the summer, but it's not ever real cold. I mean, and it can kind of get cold in Texas, believe me. And I'm sure the same is for Virginia. I've seen pictures on Instagram of the distillery in snow.
Yes.
But, the temperateness of our climate, as opposed to Orkney, or even, the Mid Highlands, or even Isla, probably has one of the most temperate of all Scotches. But how do you account for the maturation due to climate?
Yeah. One thing that I like to talk about is that Scotland feels big. It takes a while to drive to cross the locks and ford the Firth. But the entire nation of Scotland can fit inside the geographical space of Virginia. And we are one of the smaller states. So you can imagine if they get the 5 recognized regions of Scotch production.
Yeah.
We should really be talking about regionality in American Single Malts.
I absolutely agree. Oh my gosh, I so agree.
Yeah, we're on the side with the mountains, but we have the coast with the Atlantic and all the influence there. We have a lot of very dynamic weather. So we have seen highs of 108 Fahrenheit and lows of -4 Fahrenheit.
Wow.
Not only that, we've seen a discrepancy from one day to the next of 68 degrees. So, yeah, last spring, there was a day where I was outside in shorts and then it snowed the next day. So our barrels are getting a workout, and that means a lot of color and flavor very naturally, very quickly. But you can imagine, while Scotland sees an average of 1% loss to angel share a year, our first year was terrifying. I saw loss up to 12%. After about 6 to 7 years, we've brought it down. 3 to 6 is what I see on average now. But that is incredible loss. And it means, unlike in Scotland, I can't wait 20 years and say, okay, the whiskey's fine. There are plenty of times where they don't expect any loss after, aging more than 2 decades. They just say it.
Yeah.
Just kind of levels off. Yeah. Not true here. It is way too dynamic. And so I have to take into account the headspace in the cask and what that will do for oxidation. Really, one thing I wanted to talk about earlier with Texas is it's dry too. So not only is the heat, they're having this ABV jump up. For us, it's too humid. So in addition to oxygenation, in addition to the color and all the influence from the cask, we're having reduction in cask. And I've got to take that into account too. So it's a very, very interesting climate to work in. We have metal-clad cask houses and we palletize inside them. So sun's beating down on one side, cool shadows on the other. There are microclimates where I know I'm going to get more evaporation here, and I'm going to have more reduction in cask here. It's crazy.
I mean, the top of your warehouse is going to be 20 degrees hotter than the floor.
At least.
Yeah. On a good day. On a temperate day, probably, it would be that much difference. Golly. Okay. Yeah, the regionality really interests me because unfortunately, we have started getting a couple of big box liquor stores, but we don't have a lot of representation of your brand here right now. So we got to work on that.
Yeah.
Are you all working with a distributor in Louisiana? Do you know?
No, we are planning to probably move into Louisiana more next year.
Okay.
You can go to vadistillery.com and type in your zip code and see what can ship to you.
Yeah.
And that's where we are right now. We really focused on the East Coast, and now we're expanding pretty quickly. So we're in 40 plus states.
Yeah, so. I buy it out of state and haul it in.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
I'm like Smoking the Bandit running down,
Oh,
eastbound and down. Um, but so I've got a selection that I'm going to be doing, and I really wanted that East Coast version. May see if I can find somebody to mule me something over by Saturday. But I've got a Balcones lineage,
nice.
St. George Baller, which
Oh,
is like
fun.
so
That's a
different.
great talking point.
Yeah, an Andalusia bottled in bond, the first
Love
single
it.
malt bottled in bond in Texas. Um, and then I've got um, Westland's American Oak,
Nice.
and what is the other one? I have five. What are they? What's the fifth one? Andalusia, Balcones, Baller, and I can't think of the other one. Anyway, but it's just they're kind of all like spread out.
Yeah.
Um, and the difference of, Pacific Northwest as opposed to Alameda, California,
Yeah.
Balcones, and a strain of hands cast
Oh,
strength. That was the
Colorado.
other one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Colorado, you have, altitude
Rocky
and
Mountain.
arid, and Blanco, Texas is I mean, not probably 2 hours from Waco if you're driving like Texas, but they're very different. You're getting
Yeah,
into the hill country as opposed to glorified South Dallas, and it's just very, very different climes to
for
see the
sure.
difference in that. I can totally, totally, totally see, much less if you get one from upstate New York, I can totally see having a regionality within American single malts
Mhm.
as we do within Scotches in Scotland.
Yeah.
Absolutely see that. Mhm. Another one that we don't really get here that I've had was the Delback to
Oh, so good.
and
Yeah.
especially with the mesquite, and Andalusia does a little bit of that, applewood, mesquite, and oak, and just
Mhm.
the different treatments to that. So kind of rounding that out, will Virginia do any kind of a peated version?
I like to experiment and I love my peat. I think the core courage and conviction range will be free of peat. But don't be surprised if you see something experimental and fun down the road because
Okay,
I've
well,
got a couple
now you
fun
know
casks.
me. You can see if I got do a wide variety, you see all the peated behind me
I
here
do.
for
I see
sure.
some old friends back there.
Yeah, okay. We have a really good time at my house. I have the best Scotch bar in town.
I believe it.
Actually, I know that's not true. There's two other people I know that I could never compete with and don't even want to, but they're generous and I get to enjoy their collection. Big
Fun.
shout out to Brian Kilco Whiskey with his channel. He was dropping in for a bit to say hello. He's headed off to Austin to the Whiskey Tribes Bastards Ball this weekend. This
Fun.
morning, usually I'll get to see each other, but I won't be able to make it this year because we'll be doing that. But I'm serious. We're going to have over 60 tasting booths at the
Fun.
Louisiana Bourbon Festival. Our group has over 700 members for Baton Rouge.
Wow.
And it's just we raise a ton of money for charity
Oh,
and it's really great. But we're doing seminars during the day. Our friends from Iron Root, guys, all my peeps over
yeah.
here, my Camp
The
Drammers.
licorice family.
Yeah, Robert's Licorice is coming with their new ambassador Philip. So I'm super excited about seeing them here. Still Austin, another. So we're so close to Texas, and
Yeah.
we're I think more familiar with Texas whiskey companies at times, which was another reason I really wanted to get y'all on because you got a super product and it's only going to get more.
That is my goal. Better
Uh,
every year.
so now I'm on the sherry. And I know
Oh.
we're getting close to the hour. We're having a lot of fun. I'm just going to look through the comments too to see if there's any more. So tell me what all you all have planned for. So as far as core range, we've got
Mhm.
the courage and conviction. That's the
The
different
signature
batches.
malt and then peeling it back, the bourbon cask, the Cuvee cask, and the sherry cask.
Yeah.
So the Cuvee we've already talked about, but the sherry I age in Fino, Oloroso, and PX. So
Okay.
you're getting a blend of all three. That's why I get this tropical, bright honeysuckle note from the Fino. There's like pineapple in there. The Oloroso is going to be nuttier, more hazelnut.
Mm-hmm.
And then the PX, you got your leather, fig, cocoa, which I love. So I am peeling it out even more with those sherries, doing some fun single cask picks. I every year do a charity project where all the proceeds go to different charities. I've done local first responders, the SPCA.
Awesome.
Now we're doing a scholarship with App State for women in fermentation and distilling
Oh,
sciences.
oh my God,
Yeah.
I love Boone.
Yes.
I love
Yes. So,
Appalachian State.
it's called Scholar's Craft, and it is a coffee cask finished whiskey. So,
Oh,
yeah, I've got some fun
ooh.
experimentals too. But yeah, that is on the horizon. Usually every March we're doing that charity release.
Oh man, that's great. So what's the best way to keep in touch with the distillery to learn about things like that?
Yes, well, we have ASM Academy that I do want to give a shout out to, because if you want to get geeky about that, you can always go to our website, viadistillery.com, or Courage and Conviction. You can use that instead. I would also say follow us on Instagram or Facebook, because we have a really great social team and they like sharing different events and releases there too.
Yeah. Okay. The ASM Academy, I'm gonna have to look into
Yeah,
that.
it's super
'Cause,
geeky. You can find it on our website, or you can just go ASM Academy on Google and you'll find it.
oh man, I could totally. Is it like a couple of days or a week or like?
Not even that long. It's a
Okay.
series of videos with like fun
Oh,
interactive quizzes. And my goal
sweet.
is to build it up every year. I want to do interviews with other ASM producers and start
Okay.
building out. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we have some late bloomers that came in. William Hall's here, Mr. Great Shot, Joe Combs, my buddy Kevin, another Camp Drammer. Goodness, awesome, awesome. So Chris, everyone's also asking about whether or not you're wanting to put age statements or just kind of how you're going to work with the older stocks, or just
Yeah.
kind of keep with the 4 year, or will that 4 year turn into a 5, turn into 6?
It already is kind of verging on that turning into 6. So you might see some age statements creeping in the next few years. I think that it would be fun to do some special limited releases too that maybe celebrate special milestones. So yeah, that's all I'll say there.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. This has been so much fun. I hope you've enjoyed it.
I've had a blast.
This is great. Okay, last call, folks. Any other questions? I've taken of her time. I know she's on the road and pooped and tired and would like to enjoy her evening before she has to get up and do it all over again tomorrow, like the rest of us.
Oh, I had fun
Um,
for sure.
I'm getting a lot of cocoa on this on the sherry for sure.
It's a good campfire whiskey too.
Almost like a chocolate covered raisinette.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh me. Damn girl. You can blend some whiskey.
Thank you.
As if you needed my validation
I'll take
any
it.
way, shape, or form. No, I will, just say I love, first of all, that you're using your gift and your craft to make some really good whiskey. It sounds like you've got a great group of people to do that for. So we're really happy about that. Shout out for the curly girls in the world. That's
You're
another
here.
one. Because hey, easy living in humidity with curly hair. Let me just
Oh
say.
my gosh.
Believe me, I understand. I have more chemicals in my hair than probably up under my sink. But yeah, no, but we really do appreciate your time. And thank you so much. I'm gonna pop you in the background unless you got something else you want to talk about.
Cheers to you. Thank you for sharing the single
Awesome.
malt love.
All right, well, let me say bye to my folks, and I'm gonna say bye to you. So hang on in
Will
just
do.
a bit. Thanks so much, Amanda. Y'all, oh my gosh, I could go on for days. That was so much fun and so interesting. If you don't have a Virginia distillery expression in your location, do as she said, go look on their website, see if you can get it shipped to you. Everybody around has got some of this and some of that. If you need samples, reach out to me. we could probably hook you up with something to where you can get at least a sampling of this to learn more about it. I really think we are on a very exciting edge of discovery with these American single malts, because they're getting in their element, they're getting in their time to where they've got stock that's truly in a nice sweet maturation age point, and I just think it's going to be even better. And we're here for it now, to see it like go and swing up. So, hot dog, I'm so excited. Guys, thank you all so much. Camp Drummers, join the group that help support this channel. Thank you all so much. This was so much fun. We're going to be talking back next couple weeks. Couple different things are going, but we'll talk about it a little bit more next week. But I'm headed back to Scotland. Can't believe this all lined up the way it is, but I'll be going back over early November, and we'll get to go to the Glasgow Whiskey Festival. I am more than stoked about it and kind of perplexed how it all happened, but super excited about that. Lord knows we'll have a lot to talk about before that occurs. But yeah, y'all, thanks so much for the support. More about Glasgow later, and I will see you next Tuesday night. Slangy, y'all.